Chumash and Rashi, the Torah portion, Parshas Vayeira. We are in the sixth reading. We are chapter 21, verse 22. We continue. Vahi be'esahi, and it was at that time. Vayomer Avimelech and Avimelech said, Ufichol Sar Tzavoy, and Fichol, who was the Sar, the minister, Tzavoy of his army, El Avraham, he said to Avraham, Lamor, saying, Elikim imcha, God is with you, Bechol asher ata oise, in everything that you do, God is with you. Whoa. That's the way of the Jewish people. And that's a smart person who recognizes it. Today's learning is in honor of the first yard site of a very special lady who used to come here before COVID, when she had the kayak. Not exactly certain how old she is, 97 minimum, but maybe more than that, as the neshama continues. Yeah. So, Sprinza Bas Israel Gedalia, may her neshama have an aliyah and take care of, she used to be a runner, to run circles in heaven, to take care of her family, take care of the Jewish people, and bring the final redemption of Mashiach now. Okay, so Rashi, Elokim Imcha, verse 22. In Rashi, God is with you. The fish because they saw Shiyata Mishchunas Stoim, that he had left the vicinity of Stoim L'Sholem, safe and sound, right? Stoim was destroyed, and he came out safe and sound. The Imam Malachim Nilcham, and he waged war against the kings. If you remember last week's Torah portion, he waged war against the 4 kings that defeated the 5 kings. And they fell into his hand. And not only that, now we just learned that his wife was remembered by Hashem and she conceived Liskunab to his old age. Beautiful. So he sees clearly that God is with them. Guess what? God is with the Jewish people. If we open up our eyes and we see what's going on in the Holy Land and beyond, we see that God is with us. Absolutely. No question. 23, verse 20. Ve'ata, now Hishavali, take an oath to me, for me, with me, Velikim, with God, by God. Hine, behold, im tishgarli, if you will sheker, the word sheker means falsely. If you will deal falsely with me, by the way, this is like an important point over here because I don't know if Rashi brings it. I don't think Rashi brings it over here because it's not the simple meaning. But because of this oath that he took now with Avimelech, we got delayed going into the land of Israel and conquering it. It was 7 generations it had to be. Anyways, it's a whole got some McGill over here, but Rashi, we're learning Rashi, so we're not gonna go. But it's like this is, you think it's just a story. It's not a story. This is God's story. Thank you for the commentary. What's that going to do with what we're learning now? Okay, thank you. No, let's first focus in on Rashi, okay? And if you will swear falsely to me, Lenini, and to my son, and to my grandson, the kindness that I have done with you, you should do with me. The im haaretz asher gartabo, and with the land, this is the point over here, with the land that you are now going to dwell in, right? You have to do the kindness. In other words, hey, you can't take it over yet. Let's see Rashi. 23. To my child and my grandchild, Adkan, until this point, Rachmei Av Alaben, the mercy of a father over a son, because he doesn't go more than that. He doesn't state more than that, that there is a a paternal love towards a grandchild, but towards generations beyond that, it's not, it's anyway. Yeah. According to the kindness that I've done with you, you should do with me. What kind of kindness is that? Because I said to you, I said, behold, the land is before you. Now, the land is here. You can dwell on it. And so as I've done that kindness with you for these generations, you should do that kindness for me. Right? And again, according to the simple meaning of the text, the simple meaning of the text is the way it's understood in its context. But as the Gemara and the Medrash explain, and maybe we'll have time, we'll see what the Rebbe says. Let's go further. Vayeira Avram, and Avram responded, and he said, Anechi Shava, I will swear. Chiach Avram as Avimelech, and Avram, he was mechiach, he disputed, Avimelech, al Eides Be'er Hamaim, concerning the well springs of water, the well of water, Asher Gozlu Avdei Avimelech, that they stole the servants of Avimelech. Rashi Hoichiach, Nizva Keyach Imoy al Kach, he argued about it with him. 26, Vayeira Avimelech, and Avimelech responded, and he said back to him, Lo Yedaiti, I didn't know. Mi asa sadavar hazeh, who did this thing? V'gam ata lo higadatili, and you also haven't told me. V'gam anechi lo shamaiti, and I also did not hear bilti hayoyim only today. In other words, this is the first time I hear that my servants, they did something with your well springs of water, your wells of water. V'ikach Avram, and Avram took tzoin, he took sheep, ubakar, and cattle. And he gave to Avimelech bris. It's interesting that he, he rebukes him about this, and then he goes and makes the covenant. I guess,
What does Avram give? He's making a covenant. Avimelech is asking for the covenant.
Right, and he's giving the goods.
Why?
He's giving the goods. Good question.
Why did he give?
Good question.
Give it to Avram?
Yeah.
For peace sake? That should be.
No, it got to be for.
Doesn't bother the Rashi.
Yeah, it doesn't bother Rashi.
Doesn't bother Rashi.
Yeah, that only bothers you because you're thinking of it in not in a 5-year-old context. If we were real 5-year-olds, then I guess it wouldn't bother us.
So what is the 5-year-old thing?
I don't know. I don't know. I said, I don't know.
How does a 5-year-old?
I said, I don't know, but it's a good question. Good question. Yeah. He's asking for the covenant, so he should give to the covenant. He wants the covenant, so Avimelech should give to it. Why is Avram giving to it?
Yeah.
Did he argue with him?
He argued over the wells, not over the covenant.
Problem
For sake of argument.
No.
Okay, fine.
Maybe this is the problem with the Jewish people.
Anyway, obviously this was the right thing to do because Avram did it.
He's asking to make a covenant. Avimelech is asking to make a covenant. He should be giving to Avram.
Yeah, he should give it to Avram, not to Avram.
Yeah. Okay. Maybe the Rebbe will address to it. Okay, 28. Yatsev Avram, and Avram said, okay, Chevra, we're going to continue into 28. We're going to see if we can find something for the Rebbe, because as David pointed out, it's a short class. Shkoyach. And Avram set aside as Sheva Kivsois, the 7, use Hatzoin levadehem, of the flock alone. He set them aside. Vayeira Avimelech, and Avimelech said El Avram to Avram, Ma heina, what are these? Sheva Kivsois ha'ela, these 7 ewes, Asher nitzavta levadena, that you've set them aside. Vayeira, and he said, Ki es Sheva Kivsois, because of the 7 ewes, tikach, you should take miyadi from my hand, ba'avur, in order tiyeli, in order that it should be le'eda, as a testimony, ki chafar, aha. Oh, you see, okay, now we get the answer. Ki chafarti es habe'er. So he said, I have dug this well. So here he's giving it to him, right, for the well, because that was what the dispute was over, right? So now, because he brought up the disputes, and that's why Avram is giving the use. Okay, 30. Let's see 30 in Rashi. In order that it should serve me, Zois, that this act will serve me, Leida, as a witness, Loshen Edus, Ashel Nekeva. The word Edus, Eda, rather, is a feminine form. Yeah, Kamai Veida Matseva. Okay. What does Rashi want to say about that? Why is he saying that?
To put it up, right?
Aha, because it says Tia. Tia is a feminine form that will be, right? Third person feminine. Aha. In other words, what Rashi's saying over here, and then it's going to serve for me this as a testimony, because since it's feminine, in other words, it's not, he's not responding to Avimelech. The testimony will be for me, right? And that's why it's in feminine form rather than masculine. There would be for him. Ki chafarti is a be'er that I dug this well. The shepherds of Avimelech were quarreling over it with the shepherds of Avram. And saying, we dug it. So the shepherds said among themselves, Kol mi she is ala be'er, whoever will appear at the well, and the water will rise to greet him. Shaloihi, it belongs to him. In other words, it's a sign from heaven that it belongs to him. All the cross of Avram, and the waters rose to greet Avram. Wow. How's that simple meaning of the text? How Rashi got that from the simple meaning of the text? Chafarti, I guess from the word chafarti, that I dug it. Well, he didn't dig it. Who dug it? His servants. Exactly. So from the word chafarti, that I dug it, it means, and obviously he didn't dig it. His servants did, right? So it means that the waters rose to him, proving that it belongs to him.
So it's an empty well and then it started to rise.
Yeah, or it was half full and it rose. Whatever it was, it rose.
Yes.
Wow. All right. 31. Al Kain Kara Lamakamahu. Therefore, it was called this place Be'er Shava. Wow. Sham Nishbu Shneim. Why? Because the two of them took an oath there.
Where's that now?
Beersheba is where Beersheba is. Beersheba. Right? Same place. In the south of Israel. And they cut a covenant. They cut a covenant, meaning they made a covenant, a treaty. In Beersheba, V'yakam Avimelech, and Avimelech got up Fichol Sartzvay together with Fichol, his head of his army, Yashuva El Eretz Plishtim, and they returned to the Philistines, to the Plishtim. V'yita Eshel, and he set up an Eshel. We'll see. Rashi's going to get into what that means, right? He set up an Eshel, right? In Beersheba, V'yikra Sham, and he called there B'Shem Hashem Kel Olam. He called out there to God, God of the world. Right. Yeah, I don't know if Rashi's going to pick up on that. I don't know if Chassidus does. I don't think Rashi does. But that's, yeah. Okay, Rashi, Eshel. We haven't had this word before, right? So this word is disputed in the Gemara what it means. Ravu Shmuel, they interpret the word Eshel differently. Chad Amar, one says Pardes, that it's an orchard. Lahavi Mimeno, to bring from it. Peirus La'orchim Suda, to bring fruits for guests at a time of a meal. Chad Amar, and the other one says Hundak Lachsnania, that it's an inn for lodging. Oh boy, Kol Mine Michael, and there are all sorts of foods in the inn. And we see the word then the first explanation, and that's why maybe it's the first explanation, because it says he planted, right? Vayita means he planted. So if you plant an orchard, that makes sense. But how do you plant an inn? What does it mean? So Rashi explains, and the terminology of the word planting, the oyalim, is also used in regards to tents, right? And the inn was the tent. Upon Danoi, that he planted the tents of his palace. Wow.
Well,
He brings from the book of Daniel. Why did he bring from Avram? Because we already had this term, Vayita is Oyalai, right? That he set up his tent. We already had that in Parshas Lech Lecha. And where does he bring a proof? From the book of Daniel, when he could have been brought from last week's Parsha. I'm sure that I've asked that question. Caught the question I just asked? Yeah? I guess not. Okay. Okay, Vayikra Sham, and he proclaimed over there, you say Eshel, by that Eshel, whether it was the orchard or whether it was the inn, the Nikra Shmai, Shal Kodesh Baruch Hu, Elokah, that he proclaimed the name of God, L'chol Ha'olam, to the entire universe. After, and what does that mean? So he explains. After they would eat and drink in the inn, right? Or even if it was an orchard, the orchard was to take from it to bring to guests food, right? So Eimer Lehem, so Avram would say to them, to his guests, that you should bless the one that you've eaten from. Do you believe Shemishaliachaltem? This is what Avram is saying to his guests, right? Do you think that you ate of mine? By the way, if you're picking up the words over here, this is from davening, right? From benching, right? The Misha, right? From benching, and now from Baruch Shamar. Mishamar ba'aya but it belongs to him who spoke and brought the universe into being. Achaltem, you've eaten from. So he's teaching them through food that the world belongs to God, and you have to praise and bless God. Exactly. 34, the last pasuk with a long Rashi. Okay, are we ready? Yagar Avram, and Avram sojourned the Eretz Plishtim, in the land of the Plishtim, the Philistines. Yamim Rabbi, many years. How many years? More than he lived in Hebron. It was for 26 years. And we'll see Rashi, because Hebron was 25 years. And let's see Rashi as he goes through a lengthy explanation. Hold on to your cup. Yamim Rabbi, what does it mean? Many days. Many days, as Rashi is going to explain, means many days more than other days. So it's a comparative thing, right? So the many days is here more than another place that was also many days, but not as many days, right? So he explains, Merubim al shel Chevron, more than the days of Chevron. The Chevron Masa Esrim B'Chamei Shana. Chevron, he spent 25 years. V'kan Esrim B'Sheish, and here 26 years. Now he proves it. Shaharei ben Shivim B'Chamei Shana Halya, because he was 75 years old last week when we first were introduced to him, or when God first spoke to him, when he left Haran, in Lech Lecha, right? Shana, that year he was 75, as the verse clearly says, and he went and dwelt in the plains of Mamre, because we did not find prior to that point that he settled only but there. Because in all of his places, right, that where he encamped before the plains of Mamre, he was like a guest. Chayne, camping, v'neisei, and traveling. Haylech, and moving on. Shenemar, as it says, v'yavar Avram, and Avram passed. Yatek Misham, and he relocated from there. V'yira ba'arez, v'yira Avram Mitzrayma. There was a famine in the land. He descended to Egypt. Mitzrayim also shloisha chodashim. In Egypt, they only spent 3 months. How do we see that? Because Pharaoh sent him off miyad immediately. And in the verse says then he continued on his journeys until he came and dwelt in the plains of Mamre, which the plains of Mamre is Chevron, is reference to Chevron. Visham Yashav, and there he lived until Stoim was overturned. And at that point, Avram, he journeyed from there, right? So till this point, we learned over here, except for the, kind of small journeys that he took that were as a guest, but not like setting up shop, so to speak, setting up a home. So he was in Chevron the whole time. But because of the shame of Lot, right? Of what Lot did with his daughters, right? So he moved away from Chevron and he went to the land of the Philistines. And he was 99 years old at that time. Because on the third day after his circumcision, the angels came to him. So you have there 25 years. 75 to 99, meaning in his 25th year.
How old was he with?
No, he was in his 75th year, meaning he was 74, and therefore to 99, that's 25 years.
How old was he when he had
when he had 100, a year later, right? But he circumcised himself, right, a year before that, right? Right. So he circumcised himself. He was 99. He was in his 75th year when he left. So that's 25 years. So that we got, okay? So it's 25 years. That's what we've now brought clearly. Can't see, but here it says that he lived in by the Philistines in Beersheba, Yomim Rabbi, many days, which implies that we said Merubim al Rishonim, more than the first ones, right? More than he lived in Chevron. So if the verse does not come this time to make things vague, but to clarify things. As if so, then. And so now follow the logic Rashi's going to say here. And if they were greater than the first one, 2 years or more, he would have explained, the verse would have said how much more it would have been, or how many years it would have been, right? Instead of just saying Yamim Rabim. Therefore, you must say, according to the simple meaning of the text, Rashi is saying, it can't be more many days, and others more than the other days than 1 year. Otherwise, the verse would have said it. Then you have, as a result of that, 26 years. Miyad, and at that point, Yatamisham, he left Beersheba, he left the Philistines, he returned to Chevron. And that year, when Avram returned to Chevron, preceded the what's going to be tomorrow's teachings, the binding of Yitzchak. 12 years. And that's how it's taught in Seder Olam. 1 second. So he goes through the calculations after these, and he deals with the binding. So the binding of Yitzchak did not take immediately after this covenant between Avram and Avimelech, as we'll see in the next pasuk, which will be tomorrow.
He was 88 years old at this point.
No,
When that came from.
no, he's at this point, he's 125. Right? He was 99, 26 and 99 is 125.
How old was he when that was it?
It was 100.
In hindsight.
Okay, let's take a look and see. Okay, so in verse 33, previous verse, right? Where it says that he's opened up an inn or orchard, right? We had two different opinions in Beersheba, and he proclaimed in the name of God, God of the universe, right? So Rashi said, if you recall, the second Rashi over here, that he proclaimed that through the Eshel, the name of God was proclaimed, right? God, the Holy One, blessed be his name, was proclaimed as God, the entire universe. Travelers would eat and drink, and he would tell them, bless the one of the food that you've eaten. Do you think it's mine you ate? You've eaten the one who belongs, which it belongs to the one who spoke, and the world came into existence, right? By the way, it's interesting. Look at the one that spoke, right? This is before the book of Genesis was printed, right? Because the book wasn't yet given to the Jewish people, right? And what does it say in the book of Genesis? That God spoke the world into creation. Avram already knew this. Already knew this, right? Okay, so the Rebbe says on this.
Amazing.
The Medrash says on this that when the guests would come and they didn't want to bless God, Avram then would demand from them an exorbitant payment for the food and drink, with the tviya, the taina, which with the not complaint, not with the justification, I guess, that where would you get such a meal like this in the desert, right? In other words, you're getting A1 dining in the desert, and so that costs, right?
Yeah.
So then the guest would get a little, hotsy-totsy over that, and be in sort of like they're back against the wall, if you will, and then they would agree to bless God. So they're kind of forced to bless God, right? He brought them to a place. So it never says, seemingly this is wondrous. What benefit is there that you get from a person to say words to praise God when you force them and their heart is not really with it?
Faithful story.
Right? Well, we're learning Rebbe right now. Let's see if that fits in. Maybe it does, but let's see. Right? How is it possible to say that Avram, he publicized the name of God through forcing someone that doesn't have intent to do what they're doing properly, right? And Pesach's story is not a proof to this, because in Pesach's story, he just showed him love in such a way that that person recognized themselves. Oh, okay, I'm going to do it. So they did it with intent, right? Here we're talking about without intent. So that doesn't, it's not similar to here, right? So this could be understood, but which explained in actually Tanya chapter 29, he brings over here interesting that sometimes a person is such a slow and coarse level, so so in depth, is so deep in their own desires to fulfill their own, pleasurable desires, that they're not able to uplift themselves from that place. And therefore the advice then would be for a person to kind of coax them and to break their haughtiness. And through breaking their haughtiness and their coarseness, then that will give them the capability that from that low place that they could change their situation for good. So in our case over here, Avraham Avinu, he engaged in, publicizing the fact that there's a creator of the world, right? And he did it through means, through explaining to them, to bring proof to them that there's a God that they should recognize, and so on and so forth. When they saw the people that would not accept this understanding that he would present to them, right? And why didn't they accept it? By the way, is a very important point over here. Why won't someone accept that there is a God? I'm watching someone who was a scientist, and he wants to prove that in the scientific community, right? The scientific community, those who have more than a BA, right? Or who are in the scientific world registered as in whatever, only 7% believe in God, right? Only 7% believe in God, right? That's what they show. As opposed to 90% of the regular population believe in God. So how could that be? So you know why it is? It's not because they're smart and they know something more. It's because they're haughty. Because of their smarts, they become haughty. They become full of themselves, and therefore they're become more coarse. Coarse doesn't mean that they that they pig out every meal. Of course means that they're just very full of themselves, and therefore they're not open to any other reality but what they understand themselves. That is coarseness. When reality is what coarseness is when you can't accept from someone else because you have a handle on reality, right? So therefore, when someone is so sunken in their own haughtiness, right, and therefore doesn't give them the capability to recognize godliness. Yeah, as far as I'm concerned, anybody who doesn't recognize godliness, they're just the most out to lunch individual, the most full of themselves, because it's like it's in every aspect of existence. It's so real, right? Every aspect. I'm not going to get into that right now, right? And what the Rebbe is saying over here is so real to me. It's only because their haughtiness, and therefore, that's why he demanded from them, Avram, a large payment, because that brought them into pressure. It pressured them, and that pressure broke them, broke their coarseness and their haughtiness. That would at least allow them then to hear the truth, to recognize the truth that God is the God of the world and you ate from his food. Wow. Is that amazing or what?
Mhm.
That's amazing. That's the only sikha that I see here on what we learned today. Well, there's another one, but not on what we learned. Different point. Time is it?
14 minutes.
But this stuff is on above ahead.
Yeah.
9:16.
It's saying that 16.
We're still in summer mode. You know, wishfully, right?
Still light. 5 o'clock starts getting late. Yeah. There's daylight saving time. Just daylight saving times. We get light earlier.
You don't have that activity.
Don't have any green, no, a lot of places don't have it. Useless.
Yeah. I agree.
They might even change it.
So interesting, folks. In verse 33 over here, right? It says V'ita Eshel, right? We had a debate on what that means, right?
Kitchen
The word Eshel, right? So the Midrash says the word Eshel is an acronym. Aleph, Shin, Lamed, Achila, eating, Shtia, drinking, and Levia, escorting. Right? And the Rambam writes it's a mitzvah, a positive commandment, a rabbinic positive commandment, that when you to visit the sick, in other words, it's not a biblical commandment, but it's a rabbinic commandment to visit the sick, to go comfort the mourners, to go to escort the dead, to bring a kala to the wedding, and to escort your guests.
The morning blessings.
Yeah, exactly. And then the Rambam says, right? This is we're gonna soon in a few months we'll get there in learning a Rambam. Then the Rambam says that the reward for escorting your guests, or actually no, yeah, I guess to escort your guests is greater than all of them. And this is a statute that Avram Avinu and his path of kindness that he accustomed himself with, that he would give food to the passerbyers, give them drink, and then he would escort them. Got it? That's what the Rambam says. So we need to understand the Rambam. The Rambam is only speaking about over here about the mitzvah of escorting. That's what he's speaking. He doesn't mention about feeding, about giving food to a guest. He only says escorting. So why would the Rambam in finishing off his words that say that Avram fed his guests and gave him drink? That's not the point over here. Got the question? He's only speaking about escorting. In the mitzvah, he only mentions escorting. So when you want to prove how important, why do you have to bring about, what are you bringing about giving food? That's not the point in the halacha, right? So the Rebbe says that the intent of the Rambam is to emphasize that escorting the guests, it also has an influence on having guests, bringing guests into your home. That when you have a guest and you then are escorting your guest, shows on the true engagement, the real engagement that you had with the guest to be your guest. That it even goes to that you even escort them. In other words, escorting them shows how much you were happy to have them as your guest when you fed and drank them. So maybe when you fed and drank them, okay, so you fulfilled your your duty, and escorting, okay, goodbye, off on your way. But when you escort them, that shows your your devotion and how much you were happy to have them as a guest, right? And that shows the true kindness of having them as your guests, that you fed and drank them, right?
Does that have anything to do with the angels when Abraham went to greet the angels? And
No.
met God?
No.
Okay.
Well, no, I mean, he went to greet the guests. Yeah, but that's not what we just learned here. That's the escort. That's at the end. That was to greet them. To greet guests. Okay, of course. A guest comes into your home, you got to greet them. That makes sense. The escort is the chiddush, is the novelty over here, right? They like you gave, okay, here's the food, and what I need to, okay, you're finished. Have a great day and goodbye, right? The fact that you escort them shows on a greater sense of devotion, how much you were happy. Not that they sat at your table and ate your food and you had conversation with them, but even and they're leaving, you are connecting with them, right? And therefore, that's why he mentions what Avram did, because it brings the true kindness of what he did of giving them food and drink by that it was a true kindness in the fact that he escorted. Wow. Yes. All right. There's more on that.